Welcome back to your Spanish learning journey. If you've completed Lesson 1, you now understand vowels, pronunciation, greetings, essential words, gender basics, infinitive verbs, and simple introductions. That foundation now prepares you for Lesson 2, where we begin turning your knowledge into real conversations. In this lesson, you will learn how to build simple sentences, ask basic questions, understand everyday verbs, and start forming your first natural dialogues. Remember, learning a language is like building a house. In Lesson 1, you laid the foundation, and in Lesson 2, you start building the structure. The first important topic of Lesson 2 is subject pronouns, which tell us who is performing the action. In English, we say I, you, he, she, we. In Spanish, these are yo, tú, él, ella, and nosotros. But here's the interesting thing. Spanish often drops the pronoun entirely because the verb form already tells us who is doing the action. For example, I speak can be yo hablo, but most native speakers simply say hablo. The meaning doesn't change. This is why Spanish sounds smoother and more direct. At this stage, just become familiar with the pronouns. Yo for I, tú for you, él for he, ella for she, and nosotros for we. You don't need perfection right now. You only need recognition. Now that you understand pronouns, the next focus is the most common beginner verbs, because verbs give you the power to describe actions. 3 of the most useful Spanish verbs are tener, which means to have, querer, which means to want, and necesitar, which means to need. These verbs appear everywhere in daily life. For example, tener helps you describe possession. Tengo agua means I have water. Querer helps you express desire. Quiero café means I want coffee. Necesitar helps you express need. Necesito tiempo means I need time. You don't need to memorize all conjugations yet. Right now, you only need to recognize the most common forms like tengo, quiero, and necesito because they help you build simple, clear sentences. After learning these verbs, the next step in Lesson 2 is building simple question structures, which are incredibly easy in Spanish. In English, you change word order to make a question, but in Spanish, you often just change your tone at the end. For example, 2 times agua means you have water, but if you raise your tone, 2 times agua means do you have water? You can also drop the pronoun, times agua. It still means the same thing. This simple method lets beginners ask questions without memorizing difficult structures. Some other useful questions include, ¿Qué es esto? Which means what is this? ¿Dónde vives? Which means where do you live? And ¿Qué quieres? Which means what do you want? These basic question patterns help you interact naturally in everyday situations. The next part of Lesson 2 focuses on describing objects and people using adjectives. In Spanish, adjectives must match the gender of the noun. If something is masculine, the adjective ends in O. If it's feminine, it ends in A. For example, un libro pequeño means a small book, while una mesa pequeña means a small table. Pequeño changes to pequeña because mesa is feminine. Another example is alto for tall masculine and alta for tall feminine. This might seem new to English speakers, but it becomes easy with practice. When you describe something, simply look at the ending of the noun. O usually means masculine. A usually means feminine. Matching the adjective makes your Spanish sound more natural and correct. Once adjectives are clear, we move into useful daily expressions, because expressions are shortcuts that help you communicate quickly. Some essential expressions include tengo hambre, which means I am hungry, tengo sed, meaning I am thirsty, tengo frío, meaning I am cold, and tengo calor, meaning I am hot. Notice that Spanish uses the verb tener to have for feelings that use be in English. You don't say, I am cold. You say, I have cold. Understanding these expressions early helps you avoid common beginner mistakes and makes your Spanish sound much more natural. Now let's focus on location and placement, which is extremely practical in daily life. To say where something is, you use the verb estar, which means to be temporarily. You also use simple prepositions. For example, esta aquí means it is here, esta alley means it is there, esta en la mesa means it is on the table, and esta cerca means it is nearby. These short, powerful structures help you navigate real situations like ordering food, finding places, or asking for directions. You don't need to memorize everything at once. Just become familiar with the idea that estar helps you describe locations and temporary situations. Another key part of Lesson 2 is talking about your likes and dislikes using the verb gustar, which works differently from English. To say I like, you say me gusta. To say I don't like, you say no me gusta. For example, me gusta el café means I like coffee, and no me gusta el frío means I don't like the cold. When you talk about plural things, you change it to me gustan, like me gustan los libros, meaning I like books. This may feel a little different at first, but it is one of the most useful tools for expressing your personal preferences. People connect through likes and dislikes, so learning gustar early makes conversations more interesting and personal. Next, you will learn your first mini dialogue, which helps you practice everything from Lesson 1 and Lesson 2. A simple beginner conversation looks like this. Hola, ¿cómo estás? Hello, how are you? Estoy bien, gracias. Why too, I'm good, thank you. And you, my bien. De donde eres? Very good. Where are you from? Soy de Pakistan. Why too, I am from Pakistan. And you? Soy de España. Que te gusta hacer? I'm from Spain. What do you like to do? Me gusta estudiar español. I like studying Spanish. This dialogue shows greetings, questions, answers, personal information, and preferences, all in simple, clear Spanish. Practicing short dialogues like this helps you think in Spanish and builds confidence quickly. After dialogue practice, your next focus is improving listening ability, which is essential for understanding native speakers. In Lesson 1, you learned that listening builds rhythm. In Lesson 2, you start active listening, meaning you listen and try to identify words you already know. For example, if you hear quiero, you know it means I want. If you hear tengo, you know it means I have. If you hear hola or gracias, you immediately understand. Even if you don't understand the full sentence, recognizing a few words is already progress. Your brain begins connecting meaning, and comprehension becomes easier every day. Lesson 2 also teaches you how to respond naturally, because speaking is not just about forming sentences. It's about reacting like a native speaker. For example, when someone tells you something nice, you can say, "Que bien," meaning that's good. When something surprising happens, you can say, "En serio," meaning really. When you agree, you say "sí," claro, meaning yes, of course. When you need time to think, you can say "un momento," meaning one moment. These small reaction phrases make your conversations sound real, smooth, and natural. They also help beginners avoid awkward silence. Finally, Lesson 2 helps you develop daily practice routines so you can grow consistently. The best routine for beginners is simple. Speak aloud for 2 minutes, review vocabulary for 5 minutes, listen to something in Spanish for 3 minutes, and read one short Spanish sentence. This routine is short, easy, and highly effective. Consistency is more important than perfection. When you practice a little every day, your confidence grows faster, your pronunciation gets better, and Spanish begins to feel like a natural part of your daily life.